Hi there, my name is Matthew Carson with the Open Source Energy Network. We're very excited to be bringing these testimonies before you today, but first of all we'd like to thank the Disclosure Project. The Disclosure Project has spent a couple years and over $250,000 acquiring these exceptional energy testimonies from trailblazers in the clean, free, renewable energy field. These testimonies are testimonies. They aren't simply interviews. They have been documented with affidavits and documented credentials. These people have important things to say about the current state of energy as it is in the world today. Please listen carefully, watch carefully, share these videos, disperse them amongst your friends, email the links around, but make sure to donate directly to the Disclosure Project today, and keep in mind that these are not fictional interviews or showbiz articles. These are testimonies that we hope, and the Disclosure Project hopes, will eventually stand in a court of law. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm a graduate of Parks College. Started in the Air Force at Wright-Patterson, and was in the Air Force for 2 years and stayed an additional 6 years working in research. And then I returned to McDonnell-Douglas and stayed there for 30 years, and finally ended up at Parks College again as an endowed chair.
And at McDonnell-Douglas, what was your work there?
It involved a lot of high-speed work, hypersonics. We worked on things that flew from Mach 4 to Mach 12. Had some airplanes that flew Mach 12 all the way around the world.
And just for the benefit of people, can you just explain what the Mach refers to?
Mach number is how many faster than the speed of sound you are. So literally a Mach 12 airplane flies about 12,000 feet per second, or about 14,000 miles an hour. And it could fly all the way around the world. Almost built it. One of the more interesting nights I had was, one of the things I did, of course, when you're a lieutenant in the Air Force, is you get these wonderful assignments like your office, the assistant officer of the day. And one night I was the assistant to the head officer of the day over at Patterson Field, and we had 151 phone calls come in of objects flying down interstate, well, at that time US 40, then turning at Columbus and going up to Detroit. And these were state policemen, some doctors that were up late at night, all kinds of people that reported seeing us. We had radar tracks on them, had airliners call in that they had seen them. Very, very interesting. And each one that called in, I had to run over to FTD and take the thing over, and if I didn't get back in time and the poor colonel got awoken by the next call, I got bawled out. But that was a very interesting night. And these guys, I say, were not, people who weren't used to seeing evidentiary sites and things like that. I mean, they were very clear descriptors. Probably more than half of my career I was in projects that were classified or compartmentalized.
Can you describe how that process works?
Well, generally, you have to, depending on the level of the compartmentalization and the secrecy level, you have to go through a fairly significant background check. It takes between 6 months to a year to get the background checks. And then when you do that, then you generally, if you're in a very tight compartment, then you have to sign a statement that you will not divulge the existence of the project or even answer a question that could divulge the existence of the project. And it's not even on a need-to-know basis, it's on a basis of people being identified specifically to know what you're working on and directly associated with the project. So it's very closely contained material. If you have a covert project, the funding would come through a number of government sources, none of which would be identified to the workers. Whatever higher level people were involved in it, even they might not know where the funding came. It's just that you sign a contract with the U.S. government and the funding would show up at the right place at the right time. If there was non-earthbound sources of the information, you would, at least that the people that were doing the design work or doing the analysis work, would never have any idea of where it came from. All you would have to do is visit Russia to see how they did it. They would compartmentalize every project into what I used to call silos, and they would have a colonel or a colonel general sitting on top of that, and literally they could not talk to anyone outside of that silo, and if someone else needed help, one person would be sent over to another place, sit down at a desk, look at a piece of paper, say, yes, I know what that problem is, here's the answer to it, and walk away. He would not even know what it was that he was working on. And there's giant triangles that appear over Palmdale that move very slow. So they may be different triangles so they have these, the ones that I've heard about have these glow around them, and they're very large and very slow moving. So that's different, I think, than the ones that appear over Belgium and that are very fast moving. The ones that appeared over Belgium that moved very quickly in a few seconds, no, you can't explain that on conventional physics. Just like if you use, by conventional physics, I mean engines and jet engines and rocket motors and propulsion systems as we know them today. You put fuel in, you burn something, and it produces thrust, and it accelerates an object. In that context, no. And in that kind of physics, you cannot explain hardly any human beings living long enough to go much beyond the edge of our little solar system, because it takes almost 13 years to get to the outer edge where the Kuiper belt is, and some of the outer things that are going around with Pluto and Charon and those things. So that's 26 years round trip. So you're not even out to the edge of the heliosphere where the edge of the sun's interaction is with free space. That's 3 light years away, and that would take 150 years. So in the conventional terms, no, you can't explain it. It has to be, if the physics that have to explain that are quantum physics in which things can appear to be almost 2 places at the same time and appear and reappear just like positrons and electrons do in some of the high energy particle colliders. It's probably not anything pushing it through the air. It's a coupling of the device with the energy that permeates space. Probably Tesla was as close to it when he said that if given the right energy system, the right electromagnetic spectrum, I can power a human base on Mars from Earth without any loss of energy. And in quantum physics and zero-point energy, that's a possibility. But literally, Sakharov and the number of people that were working on it, I think, are very, very convincing arguments that the fabric of space is like an ocean, an energy ocean, in which solid energy is floating on it, and solid energy is the mass. And if that's true, then gravity waves exist, and in fact, everything goes back to Heaviside equations, and it's waves, not particles. And the quantum is now not mass, but time. And if that's true, then there's a whole different, you look at the whole universe in a different light. And then a lot of things become possible that we think impossible within our current understanding of what time and space and thrust and force and all that is. Well, if they come from the other part of the universe, if there are craft that travel, galaxies on the average are 10 million light years away. And even our galaxy is about 100,000 light years across. All of the conventional thrust and force mechanisms that we conceive of just won't work in terms of human time frames. That's the only explanation I can get, is that if people are here from another civilization, then they've understood the finer points of quantum physics and how to couple that from particles into beings that can do what particles can do now.